All right, yo, welcome back to the Who's Right podcast, and the vibes, the good vibes keep rolling. Take two in Toronto. This game, this pod might have sounded a little different if our MVP didn't come through. But before we get into that, subscribe to the channel, like this video, let us know how you're feeling. Tell me how you're feeling. Are you feeling the good vibes? Victor, how you doing?
Man, we are playoff bound. Well, I'm not going to say that yet, but it just seems like we're pushing all the right buttons. It seems like the Mets are just destined to make the playoffs, and it all circles around the one who's fueling it all, Francisco Lindor. He's amazing. Um, what he's been able to do for this team this year to spark the offense has been just incredible, and it's been a pleasure to watch him this season. We talked about how special that 2022 year was because we got to 101 wins, but this just feels like a whole on a completely different level with the adversity that the Mets have faced and to where they with the just the big wins that they have this late in the season. Let's hope that it can carry on because this whole series the bats didn't wake up, but that ninth inning, they seem to finally woken up. And let's just hope this is the start of something great.
Yeah, no. We're as we recap this series, we're gonna talk about that. The hide and go seek nature of our offense continues to creep its head. But yeah, because the whole series, right? Let's just get into it because we got a lot to talk about our lineup in this series. Game one, we basically got through it by wild pitches, right? It wasn't even our offense.
Yeah, no, for sure the Blue Jays, even in that last game, kind of just saved us. And we could even say that the bats haven't officially woken up yet until they hit well against good pitching. But shout out to the Blue Jays bullpen their pitching staff for getting us two of these wins here.
Yeah, no, for sure. Uh, you know, Diaz gets the big save at the end. Um, you know, but the story of this game is no hitting, right? We squeak out the win, and Diaz closes it out for us. But there's not much else to it because I don't know what else do you want to talk about in this game.
Yeah, we had three hits. Three hits, nine strikeouts. So obviously the strikeouts continue to roll in those first two games, and no one really came through for us except for we had who was it, Eddie Alvarez that kind of scored on that wild pitch again. And so Eddie Alvarez continues to show us his contributions to the team in any way that he can. It's a move that I didn't see coming, but it's a move that has paid off because we can argue that he's gotten us a couple of wins so far. And from those past balls, he was able to do some amazing base running and get us a good lead in this one. And like you said, Diaz continues to pitch well when he's rested or when he's not rested, and he pitches consistently.
Yeah, no, and one thing, all jokes aside, one thing that we do got to point out is McGill, because without the performance that McGill had this game, we, we might have not had the chance to, because if it was a typical McGill game, we would have lost this game, the way we scored. So, McGill stepped up, and we needed him to step up, and it looks like we're going to have him for a while because it looks like Blackburn's back is not going to be good for a while yet. So, that's so we're going to need that McGill that we had on Monday.
Absolutely. And, honestly, I was surprised that he came out when he did because he was at 88 pitches. He had just retired 15 in a row. The only down spot to his start was in that first inning where he walked two and a base hit and loaded the bases, but he was able to get out of that. And then, Danny Young comes in and gives up a couple hits. I was surprised to also see him out. because he got an out, but he also didn't have the leash that we've seen him get in the past. Carlos Mendoza was he's very quick to go to his bullpen lately, and who blames him, because the bullpen has been a little bit shaky, but not quite to the extent where I thought he would be pulling guys left and right. And then Jose Budo comes in and gives up those two inherited runs. He doesn't give anything more up, but those two inherited runs were big because it just felt like it was a game that we're going to lose at that point. And luckily, the Blue Jays said, "No, you ain't. I'm going to win this game for you," and had that big inning in the seventh or in the eighth to kind of get us back on top. But I was surprised to see him pulled, and let's hope that McGill gets more of a leash, because obviously we need as much depth from our starting pitching, and maybe the game would have played out a little different, and we wouldn't be talking about Budo being a less reliable guy than he is now. And maybe that's one of the guys that we need to see more rested.
Yeah, no, for sure. With McGill, I actually don't have a problem with Mendoza pulling him, just because he doesn't have a track record, right? How long did it take for Mendoza to trust Minaya and Peterson, right? You even saw Peterson get upset the one time because he did take him out, and it's over several starts that it took. So right now, and right now, every game counts. So it's not a time to be stretching guys. As long as the other guys give you innings, right? As long as Minaya, Severino, and Peterson give you innings. Obviously, we're going to get into the Peterson start next, but I don't have an issue pulling them just because of where we're at in the season, and because McGill doesn't have the track record just yet. I know he was throwing well, but one game he could lose it in an inning, and we can't afford those losses.
Yeah.
If he loses it.
Yeah, that's a good point. Diaz is one of those guys Miguel is one of those guys. Is you never know what you're going to get, and so one inning he can come out lights out, and the next inning he might not. And it was I think he was satisfied to where he was at that point in the game. So no hate there, but we got to shout out JD Martinez too for getting us started in this game. For driving in some runs is something that we've struggled to see from the Mets often, is just that ability to drive in runs, and it was encouraging to see him get a big hit here in this one.
Yeah, no, for sure, absolutely. So let's jump into game two. Let's talk about Peterson not having it. He just didn't have it this game. I think when we talked offline before getting on, you referenced that he got too much rest, and which is interesting because I thought we were going to go towards a six-man rotation, and now we're saying the guys are getting too much rest. So I don't know what to say about that, but the news that came out. Well, let's continue to recap this game before I tell you about the news that came out. Yeah, our offense again continues not to produce anything, and Peterson didn't have it in this game.
Yeah, no, and neither did our offense. We started off the game with, and I had to turn this game off because I was so frustrated by a lot of the things that were happening. But one, our offense has not been good in that first inning. Francisco Lindor did what he does and gets the game started with the leadoff single, and Jesse Winker follows him suit. And then you have Mark Vientos and Pete Alonso come up in a spot where we needed something to happen, and I believe that they both struck out or grounded out, and then luckily Brandon Nimmo, who finally seems like he's starting to break out a little bit, and which is a great thing because we're going to need Brandon Nimmo in this stretch. Drives in a run there, but other than that, there was not much to be said. Again, the bullpen of the Blue Jays tried to get us back in this game by passing a ball, and Jose Iglesias came in to score on that. But other than that, our offense had been really silent, and we made Chris Bassett look good again. He's pitched really well against the Mets. For some reason, when he doesn't pitch well against any other team, and I like Seabass. I know Yuki was petitioning to have him come over from the Blue Jays at the trade deadline. So I like Chris Bassitt. I think he's a good pitcher, but we got to hit him better than we did in that game. We kind of let him get into a groove that he should not have been in.
Yeah, no, I agree. Agree. The offense is really the problem here because we had a chance and we let Chris Bassitt get into a groove, and he took full advantage of it. He's a veteran. He's going to take advantage of it. So no ill will against Bassitt. Me. We talked about it when he was a free agent. It was either him or Senga. So I'm not. There was nothing against Bassitt. We just want to Senga better, and and it's all good. But our offense can't let that happen and let Bassitt dominate us like that, right? Again, our offense seems to do this hide and go seek thing with the teams that are out of the race.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. Mark Vientos was, I think, 0 for 11 in this series with a couple of walks, but he's gotten into a little bit of a slump. Pete Alonso, batting right behind him, has been in a little where he actually got moved down in the last game to the fifth spot for Brandon Nimmo. But they keep on. I like how Carlos Mendoza keeps on moving this around. But those are the guys, Pete Alonso and Mark Vientos, that we need to be able to drive in runs. They're our RBI guys, and something that they weren't able to do in this series. And I think for a lot of the reason, they're a lot of the reason that we weren't able to get the offense going because they're right in the smack of the middle of that lineup.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it in the beginning of the season when Alonso was still doing what he's doing now, and he killed offensive output, right? And he killed momentum. I was about to say kill drives. I guess I'm in football mode, but I don't want to be in football mode after seeing what the Giants did on Sunday. But yeah, Alonso keeps killing the momentum, and so Vientos did that this series as well. You give Vientos a little bit of a pass because he's actually come up clutch more than Alonso has. Even though in Game 3, because let's jump into it. In Game 3, we kind of had no hit after 8 innings. I mean, I was about to say this was the season right there. I was dying. This guy, Francis, Bowden Francis, is and it's like, I'm sweating bullets in the ninth inning, top of the ninth. I see, but before we get to the top of the ninth, we got to give kudos to Manaea, because without Manaea doing another Manaea start, we couldn't be in the position that we were in the ninth. And because Manaea, except for 1 inning, traded zeros with Francis.
Yeah, absolutely. Manaea has continued to show guts every time he's out there pitching. He's pitched 6 2/3 in this one. Probably could have gone 7 if Carlos Mendoza wanted to trust him to get there, but he was already at 107 pitches or 109 pitches, so he was getting up there. But for him to only give up that one run, and it was he was battling through adversity a little bit in that inning. And he was able to only give up that 1 run, which was huge because then after that, he was able to retire, 11 in a row or something like that. And so, we've seen this time and time again from Manaea to get back into these games, to keep our team within 1 run is huge in a game like this. Good old-fashioned pitching duel is what it was. And I'll tell you what, I was punching my steering wheel each and every time I saw the Mets come to bat because I was listening to this game. And, man, to see guys like Starling Marte, to hear Harrison Bader get a hit robbed away from him, and then to just have all of these guys just come up and not score or not do anything against the guy that throws 92 as a fastball was just, so frustrating. And then finally, I fell to my knees in a cold stone when I heard that Francisco Lindor home run. I was just I was overjoyed by that, man, because he saved, like you said, he saved our season right there.
Yeah, no doubt. And hey, Keith said in the broadcast, you don't need to throw 100 to dominate. You just need to locate and keep hitters off balance. And Francis did that. You mentioned the Bader. Schneider robbed a Bader of a hit, and it was one of those hits that just open the way for a no hitter. Those are the defensive plays that you talk about in no hitters. What he did, and then our captain, our MVP, 0-2. He said, "Enough of this. Let's get this going," and got everything rolling. Got us back in the game on one swing. Because I didn't have confidence if he didn't get that. I didn't have if he didn't get us started. I wasn't expecting a home run, but if he didn't get us started, I didn't have much confidence in everybody else. And I think Lindor felt that, right? Because if he didn't do it, he probably felt that everybody else wasn't going to do it. So he needed to do it. He stepped up, and then everybody else followed suit. Even Alonso came in clutch in this game.
Absolutely, and you saw it once he went into that dugout and fired those guys up, saying, you guys got this. He fired everybody up to that win, and I really believe that. Even if he hit that home run, but it wasn't that home run that made him the MVP. It was the way that he fired up his team to continue to rally and to continue to get on these pitchers that showed why we call him the captain, why he truly deserves an MVP, because he is the most valuable player on this team. And if we go to the playoffs, it's all carrying on the weight of Francisco Lindor's shoulders. And because Ryan Finkelstein pointed out just a day before on Locked On Mets how if Francisco Lindor doesn't get going, then the Mets offense follows suit. And how true is that? Because after that inning opening home run, everyone else followed in his footsteps. Even Pete Alonso, who usually strikes out on bad pitches, was able to at least get a sacrifice fly. Starling Marte, who usually, it does the same thing, strikes out on bad pitches, was able to get a sac fly, and JD Martinez was able to walk. And not only that, Francisco Alvarez was able to end that inning with a 3-run home run in a year that he needs it. In a year that he has kind of lacked in the overall year, but has come up in these big spots. We got to give credit to Francisco Lindor for getting all of them fired up and for getting them to that point.
No, for sure. The MVP, not just of the team, but the MVP of the league. You heard it here first. But yeah, no, absolutely. That's that. It's just like Ryan said. It's on the shoulders of Lindor, and he's living up to it. And and then Diaz, one pitch, and gets the save. Got 2 saves in this series. This is kind of the Diaz that we saw in 2022 when he gets to work, he gets the job done. And so, you just love to see that we're actually giving him opportunities to get some work in.
And it was unfortunate the way that he came in this game because he was warming up in the bullpen when we had a 3-1 lead, and it seemed like that was going to be all. And then Francisco Alvarez hit that home run, and he sat down. And Stanek came in the game, and Stanek I thought had been pitching really well up until this point. And you could even argue he could have gotten out of his own mess in that one. But for Edwin Diaz to come in this one and get the save and on one pitch to save himself for this upcoming weekend series is going to be huge because one, like you said, he pitches well when he gets to work, and even if it's just for one pitch, to get him out there, I think is huge. And two, when he's looks like the way he does, then why not put him in a game, in a game that you need to win. So frustrating from Stanek and from the rest of the bullpen in this one to kind of not show the same eliteness that they've shown for the past 5 weeks or so. But like you said, the bullpen is never going to be perfect. It's always going to have some bumps and bruises. But if Edwin Diaz can be a mainstay in that bullpen, then the Mets can do some things this year.
Yeah, no, and I was actually thinking the same thing. Not because it. I honestly the save doesn't really matter to me because it's a stat that doesn't really mean anything at this point because who your guy is, right? Those stats I think are getting lost. But I was thinking the same thing. He likes to work, and that's what I was thinking. Why not just go to Diaz just because he likes to work, and we have an off day, right? So why not get him in the game, right? You get the off day. He would be available for tomorrow, Friday, and so I that's what I was thinking. More along the line of why not just get him to work? Stanek, was the only bullpen arm that gave up a run in this game. But and I agree with you. I think he could have gotten out of it, but at that point, Mendoza didn't want to take the chance. But I'm with you. Even Evan Roberts said it on his podcast. Why not just get he's up. We have a day off. Why not just get Diaz in the game right away?
Yeah, no, and it pays off. We've seen it pay off, and let's hope that it pays off in this next series because he's going to have to come up big in some of these spots, and that's some of the spots that we've seen him falter in, but also come in clutch. And so let's hope that if from the work, he continues to show us the Edwin Diaz that we know and love.
No, for sure, for sure. So let's get into the concerns part of the podcast, and we're probably going to talk about the same thing, right? My concern, Pete Alonso and Brandon Nimmo, right? Like you said, Brandon Nimmo started to hit the ball a little bit better. Got 5 ball home runs the series before that, and this, he's hitting the ball hard. Better than he has in about a month, right, or 2 months since the All-Star break. He's actually, putting good bat to ball and getting into it. But my main concern is that we need Pete. We need Pete to be Pete, right? We need Martinez to be Martinez, right? We talked about it a little bit a couple months ago, but are we seeing age get to Martinez, right? We need Martinez to be Martinez. And if he's not going to be Martinez, are we going to see, do we need to see just Winker be that DH? You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Martinez, Pete, Nimmo, those are all power bats that we should have in the lineup. And, Nimmo is batting under a 600 OPS since the All-Star break. And that's just not a recipe for success for this Mets team that relies on him so much, and who we've seen carry the Mets into victories in that last half of the first half of if that makes sense, of the season. And same with JD Martinez. If they're not on, or if they're on, we've seen them carry the Mets onto some of these wins. And I would even throw in Mark Vientos in there. Mark Vientos has gone into a little bit of a skid in this series. I think that he can break out of it very easily. But we've talked about it before. If his offense isn't there, then he's just, kind of he's not great, because his defense we saw in Game 2 can cost the Mets a little bit on the defensive side, and the offense he was able to carry his reputation with his power bat and with his offense. That's just a little bit of a concern, not much of a concern because Mark Vientos has exceeded the expectations that we've seen. Well, not my expectations. I knew that he was going to be this. Maybe not to this extent, but I knew he would make an impact on this team. And but with his defense, it was just tough. My concern more goes on Carlos Mendoza's roster or his lineup construction sometimes. In that first game, he played Eddie Alvarez and DJ Stewart, where they had no business being in the game. And it was based off of analytics. He wanted as many lefty bats in that lineup as he could. And I just thought it was a mistake. And or it was the second game, right? And it proved to be a little bit of a mistake. And even though DJ Stewart had a hit in that game, his offense just or his defense doesn't add any value. His offense barely adds any value. And the same thing with Eddie Alvarez. We can't have a couple of guys that we've recently just added up into within the past week, who we just added up into this team, get some of these starts. I'm okay with them batting late in games as pinch hitters and pinch runners, but not in our starting in our starting lineup. I don't know what you think.
Well, it's 50-50 for me. Eddie Alvarez, I don't have an issue with because Iglesias just can't play every day. That's just not going to happen. He can't play every day. You want to keep him fresh because he is clutch. So you want to keep him fresh. The guy where I will agree with you is, why do we continue to throw Stewart out there? It's like he comes up and all of a sudden, Mendoza wants to use him. I don't understand. I do not understand. Stewart is not the guy. I know you wanted to have a whole bunch of lefties in there for Bassitt, but Stewart's not the guy. He's not even. I don't even think he should be up here. He's a waste of a roster spot. I know he's gotten a couple hits here and there, but I'd rather see somebody else come up in the place of Stewart.
And absolutely. And you know who I was thinking of when I was thinking about that, because they want a lefty bat in here. When does Brett Brady get back from injury? He's one of those guys that also got hit in the wrist, was out 4 to 6 weeks, but he should be due to come back in the season, at least in these last couple of weeks. He got hurt a couple of weeks before McNeil did, and so he's a couple of weeks ahead of that schedule. And so if he does come back from that injury a little sooner than later, then I think he can play a good impact on this team rather than having DJ Stewart in that lineup, because he can also play second base and third base, a good third base as well. And so I'd love to see if that's a possibility. I know no one's talked about it, but I have not heard an update on how Brett Baty is doing.
Yeah, I don't think he'll be back. The earliest he'll be back, the 4-week mark would be the last game of the season, and without the minor league season going that long, he won't have any rehab starts or anything. He'd just be coming in cold turkey, and so I don't see that happening. But his defense is definitely much better than Stewart's, and we don't need another outfielder because we got we got 5 outfielders. With Winker and Taylor on the bench, right? Or Marte, however you want to put it. But we have 5 outfielders. So if he is healthy and ready to come back, I don't have an issue with it. He might not get the at-bats, but he's a better defensive replacement than Stewart for sure. And if he can bat, put him in there in front of Stewart, because it's Stewart. There's not much else to say about that.
Yeah, I don't know what the future holds for Brett Baty. I hope that he can make a late appearance and late cameo so that he can add some spark to this offense, or at least to the defense, and maybe to the offense if he does get some at-bats. But in the meantime, let's see Tyrone Taylor in there every day, or somebody else. Starling Marte and Tyrone Taylor need to be switching off at-bats. And then, like you said, Jesse Winker can be switching off with JD when he needs to, and even play some outfield. So there's no reason to see a guy like DJ Stewart, especially because we got Jesse Winker in the trade deadline to fill that left-handed acquisition or left-handed role that we wanted to play. Tyrone Taylor has been swinging a good bat as well, or he can when you need him to, better than I think we've seen from DJ Stewart. So let's hope that it's not a trend. He has started 2 games since he's been up here since 2 weeks ago, almost 2 weeks ago, and so I just hope that he's only utilized in a late kind of game role where you need like a big bop from a left-hander and the analytics are outstanding where you can't deny them. But that's the only role I want to see DJ Stewart in. That's our last of our gripes, though. We just got off of a monster win, and we got a big series ahead of us.
Yeah, and the question is interesting. One of the guys who watched it on replay, I think Thomas is his name. He mentioned that how we're calling for Luis Angel Acuna. He brought up a good point. They traded for Alvarez, who's not even going to be playoff eligible because he wasn't in organization before September. They traded for somebody instead of bringing Acuna up. And so, what does it say about having the organization's confidence in Acuna?
Yeah, it doesn't say much, and it's a shame because he had been before tonight and before this series that they were playing with. I think it was Rochester. He was batting really well. He's kind of quieted down in that series, in that 4-game set that they were playing. But for him to not even get the look to come up, it just shows you their analytical brains and how much they value that the analytics and wanting a left-hander to be on the organization because they DFA'd Pablo Reyes. And which was a shame because he was contributing well in the base paths. We only got to see him once, so we can't say too much on that. But with Eddie Alvarez, I think he's a good left-handed bat that they wanted that could play good defense, that does everything that Pablo Reyes did. And that's the bottom line. If Luis Angel was batting left-handed, he would probably be up here right now.
Maybe. It's just interesting. That's interesting point that Thomas brought up. But let's get into it. Who's right? None of us. So that was quick. You picked Nimmo, I picked Martinez, and it was Lindor. Lindor was the man, right? There's nothing around that. Nothing else you can say about that. Lindor was the MVP of this series. Continues to be the MVP of our team. Don't know why we keep leaving him out, but we do. And as far as a pitching standout, it's a toss-up between Minaya and Diaz. We'll give it to Diaz. Got the 2 saves and got the job done and took care of business. So and appeared in the 2 wins that we had in this series. So notch to you. And the Mets killer. There wasn't much offense in this series from Toronto. We got to give it to the guy that almost no hit us. So Bottom Francis, you're the Mets killer of the series. Yeah, 1 notch to you. You take it. There's a miracle happening all the time, and you take this series.
Yeah, like I'm not beating you on that season series, but we'll leave it there. Bowden Francis, like you said, has been good, and Vladdy was kind of silenced in this series. He had, I think, 1 extra base hit, almost got a home run in that last game, but for the most part, we were able to shut him down. And Will Wagner didn't have too much of a play in this one, and which is what we like to see. Look, we talked about how we want them to be a thorn, but even if they're not a thorn, it's even better. And how can we? None of us pick Francisco Lindor. We always do this. We always regret not picking the MVP of the season, and in hoping that some of these other guys continue to or try to spark our offense. And that's just not happening right now. So If none of us goes with Francisco this week, it'll be a shame.
Yeah, no, for sure, for sure. So let's preview the next series. A roster or a rotation shakeup, right? Peterson got moved up to Sunday start to pitch against the Phillies versus pitching against the Nationals, and McGill got pushed to pitch against the Nationals. So we got Quintana and Nola pitching tomorrow. Should be a good matchup. Hopefully we get the Quintana that wants to stay in the rotation.
Yeah.
And we got Severino on Saturday, and then like I said, Peterson on Sunday. This is the Phillies. They lead the division. Um, you know, I'm just looking for a series win, right? I'm not looking for anything better. Looking for competitiveness. Looking for an offense to break out a little bit. They might be without Schwarber, depending on how his elbow is feeling. They might be without Schwarber for a game or two. So come on, let's get it done.
Yeah, listen, we're I know not a lot of people are looking at this, but S1Y certainly is, and we're only 8 games behind the Phillies right now. We have 7 games left with this team, and so hey, if we win all 7 games, then we're only a game back from them, and it's worth mentioning. And let's see if this Mets team can do it, and clinch one of their playoff spots that way. But it's going to be a tough series. The Phillies haven't been playing exceptional ball, but they still have been playing good ball. They have the best record in baseball right now, and that's hard to deny. And so we have to go out there. Let's hope that some of these guys don't break out, like Bryce Harper, who has yet to hit a home run since the beginning of August. And I wonder if we're going to have Kyle Schwarber in this one. I think he'll have enough rest where we'll see him in this series, which is unfortunate. But we also want to see this team at their best because this is a playoff team, and there is a chance that we could see them in the playoffs. And I'm happy that we're getting to see them as much as we are in this late series. But it's going to be on the hands of our pitching, like it has been for the past couple of weeks. If we can shut down the offense, then our offense needs to be sparked. And we talked about it. Our offense broke out in that last game of the Toronto series. Let's hope that it can carry on to continue to have that momentum that they gained in that last game. And coming off a big win, this weekend series will be huge.
Yeah, no, for sure. And we need it. All we got to do is win series. I believe if we win series, we're in the playoffs. No matter how it turns out, we're in the playoffs, right? Unless another team goes 16-0, right? Because we got 16 games left. I think everybody has 16. I think San Diego 14 or something like that, some weird number because of their beginning of the season. But everybody else, I think, has 16 games left. Everybody was off today. So after you get off here, you can go watch some football. It's nothing to worry about today. All we want is to win the series. Just win the series and get it done. So let's jump into it. You went first last time, right?
Yep.
Okay. So I'm not gonna mess around. Like you said, if we're not picking them, I don't know what we're doing. MVP Lindor's my guy.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Can't go wrong with the MVP that is Lindor. And I loved Gary's call for that home run that he hit too, Linsanity, because this year has been Linsane in the membrane. Anyway, I'm gonna continue to go with my guy, Brandon Nimmo. I think this is his time to break out. I think that he's on the verge of doing so, and we're gonna see him every day. So he's going to have the plate appearances. Some may say that guys like Pete Alonso like hitting in that ballpark. Mark Vientos has talked about how, or I don't think he talked about that about pitching in Philly. Or sorry, I'm thinking about McGill liking to pitch in Philly. But Pete Alonso has done well, and so has Brandon Nimmo in Philly, and so. let's hope that we get contributions from both of those guys. But I think Brandon Nimmo is gonna shine out this series.
I hope so. Like we talked about earlier in this podcast, he's been hitting the ball well. He's just been hitting at people or foul, right? So let's hope he starts hitting him where they ain't. Hopefully he breaks out because at the end of the day, Lindor needs a Robin, right? Batman can't do it alone, and so even though he can carry you, Batman wants a little bit of help. So let's get that Robin going. And who's your pitcher?
I'm gonna go with Severino. Severino pitches well in these high leverage games, and this is a high leverage game, and so I think that Severino will have a good start this time out. He's going to show us why we regarded him as the ace of this team early on in the season, and by pitching well in this series.
Yeah, no, you can't go wrong with that. I think he's a big time pitcher. I think he loves the spotlight. I think he loves being in the, being in it, right, and in those moments. So I think he will have a good series. But I'm gonna go with a bounce back. I think Peterson is gonna bounce back. They're gonna put him in. They moved him up because they expect him to do well against this lineup. So. I expect him to do well against this lineup, and let's go see the old Peterson.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's hope that he gets back to form because he was looking really good, man.
Yeah. So that's killer. Man, this is a loaded lineup. This is you could pick anybody. I don't even need to look at the lineup. It haunts my dreams. So. But I'm gonna go with their captain. I'm gonna go with Harper.
Yeah, he's. Some may say he's due to break out. Let's hope that it doesn't happen in this series.
He'll break out. He's hitting 337. He's fine.
Well, yeah, he's hitting really well for average.
Yeah.
He just hasn't broken out for power. He just hasn't hit that home run that he usually hits. So that's a good pick. He's fine, like you said. I'm gonna go. Man, I don't like this guy. He's really annoying. But I'm gonna go with Nick Castellanos.
Man. Yeah. No, I mean I'm gonna say the same thing you said. So yeah, he's really annoying. So I could see him being annoying. But again, we picking these guys to be a little prickly thorn, not to kill us completely, because at the end of the day, we're looking for a Mets W. One little side note. Now that we did the preview and the Mets killers and MVPs of the game of the series, one note that I wanted to touch on was. Williams and Clifford seem to be getting back to form and down in Binghamton.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I haven't kept up with Binghamton too much as of recently. I know that we had our exciting young prospect Jonah Tong make a debut a couple of weeks ago or last week, and so good stuff from this young team. Like we talked about all year, this development has been a pleasure to watch, as well as the big league club, because the way we're able to stack up our farm system with this young talent has been just a pleasure, and it's going to be great because Clifford could be one of those options that we go to if Pete Alonso chooses to go other direction.
Well, and this is the sad part about Williams' injury is that he might have been the guy that we were talking about coming up and taking over for McNeil right now if he didn't get injured, right? So Gilbert has cooled down a little bit, just like Acuna. The Double A seems to be rolling right now, and so it's good to see, and the future's bright. But I think we're going to leave it there. On replay, let us know how you're feeling. Let us know how you're thinking. Let us know if what your concerns are with this offense. But before we get out of here, subscribe to the channel, like this video, turn on that notification button, and again, leave us your comments on replay. Victor, any last words?
We got to go out and win. You know, there's just this feeling I get in my gut, in my heart, when I look at the Phillies, when I hear their names, and when I see them on the schedule. I just want to win that much more. And so let's just go out there, squash those Phils, and continue to carry the momentum from this last game, because the Mets have to be feeling good. So am I.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's go Mets.
Let's go Mets.